All right, we ready?
I'm amazed because you've been around for a while. Yeah, well, sure. We're ready. We're always ready.
All right, great. Have a great show. Here we go.
That's what we do.
Come with us on a journey into the unknown, the unexplained, and the unbelievable. We will test your senses and challenge your beliefs. A world where science and religion clash. Or do they? You will meet real people and hear real stories, but you will not believe. You will witness strange sights and hear strange sounds, but you will not believe. This is the New England Ghost Project. Welcome to the nightmare.
Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to Ghost Chronicles. I am Ron Kolick, your host, the gatekeeper of the realm of the unknown, the unexplained, and the unbelievable New England's own Van Helsing. And with me, the queen of pain herself, Maureen Wood.
Hey, how you doing?
Better than you. Up in Nova Scotia. Nova
Nova
Scotia or whatever.
Scotia. I'm in Maine.
Same thing.
No, it's not the same. It's a little bit further away from Mass, but not Nova Scotia.
All right, whatever. So, anyways, we have a guest on the show today. She is a longtime paranormal investigator, and she is Margaret Florio, if I got that right.
Yes.
Now, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So, Margaret, you have been paranormal investigating for how long now?
22 years.
God bless you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I've seen the name around, and I don't know why, but I came across you again, and I said, I don't think I've ever had her on the show before, and she's right here in my neck of the woods, which is Rhode Island. Everything up here is my neck of the woods. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, I joined the Rhode Island Paranormal Research Group in March of 2003. I had always been interested in the supernatural. The house I grew up in had paranormal activity, which I witnessed and which some friends and relatives also witnessed. And um, after I moved out of the house and got married, it kind of got put on the back burner. And in 2002, my husband and I attended a Christmas party at the Aldrich Mansion in Warwick, Rhode Island. And I and my husband both witnessed some unexplainable activity. And so I went on the search engine when
Oh,
we
wait a
got
minute.
home.
Wait. Just you can't
Blah,
just
blah,
say
blah, blah.
unexplainable activity. You got to explain a little bit what this unexplainable activity you saw is.
Okay, so we arrived at the Aldrich Mansion,
Mm-hmm.
and my husband went to join some friends of ours who had, saved some seats for us at their table. It was a Christmas party, and I went into the coat room to hang up my coat. Now it was December of 2002. It was a very mild night. It wasn't really cold for December. So my husband didn't have an overcoat, but I did. So I went in the coat room and I was hanging up my coat. There was another couple in there, and they left while I was in there hanging up my coat. And I noticed that there were these French doors in the coat room, and they had handles on the doors, and they were jiggling like somebody was trying to get in. So I'm like, oh, somebody's locked out. So I went over to the doors, and there were like panels in the windows of the doors. So I pushed the panels aside, and I looked, and there was nobody there. I just saw this big long hallway. Absolutely nobody was there. and the handle stopped jiggling, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, whatever, So I left, and I went and I joined my husband and our friends, and I was sitting at the table and we were talking and socializing, and I looked up, and there was this woman with dark hair, and it was put up, and she had on like a red velvet dress, very elegant, but it was that kind of party where people were really dressed. And so I looked up and I kind of nodded at her, and she nodded at me, and then somebody at our table asked me a question, and we were talking, and I looked up and I looked around the room, and I didn't see her anywhere, and I didn't see her at all for the rest of the night, which I thought was kind of weird. And then when we were leaving, I asked my husband to come to the coat room with me, and we were in the coat room by ourselves, just the two of us, and I was explaining to him what happened before, and one of those French doors like opened and closed, and then opened and closed. And my husband and I are standing there watching this, like, with our chins on our chests, like what is this, right? So I walked over to the doors and I grabbed both handles and I pulled the doors open, and this blast of ice cold air came through the doors. And so my husband grabbed my hand, and so I slammed the door shut. My husband grabbed my hand and pulled me out of the room, and I turned around on the way out and I said, "Merry Christmas." And there were like these leather straps with jingle bells on them, and the straps like moved, and the bells ran, and my husband's like, "Let's get out of here," right? So when I got home, I searched for Rhode Island Paranormal Group, and the Rhode Island Paranormal Research Group webpage came up. So I sent him an email and I said, my husband and I just had this experience at the Aldrich Mansion. Does it have a reputation for being haunted? And about a day or two later, I got a response back from Andy Laird, who is the director of the Rhode Island Paranormal Research Group. And he said, yes, there are 3 spirits that are supposedly haunting the Aldrich Mansion. One is a little girl who likes to play pranks on people. And that's who I think we encountered in the coat room. And then the other one is the daughter of Senator Aldrich, who committed suicide on the morning of her sister's wedding by jumping off a second floor balcony. And she oftentimes appears at formal functions. She's dressed very formally, and she appears in people's photographs. So I
Oh,
think
wow.
that's the dark-haired
Interesting.
woman that I saw. And then
Yeah.
there's another one that is on the grounds. He's a former caretaker on the grounds, and he's very scary. And people who are hired to do like landscaping and stuff have like quit after seeing him because he's just like scares them away. So this started like a correspondence between myself and Andrew Laird. And I started telling him about stuff that I experienced in my childhood home growing up. And my son at the time was in like 6th grade, and he was very interested in what mom was doing online. And so I said, okay, this is what I'm doing. And so for his science project that year, he wanted to do his science project on paranormal investigating. So Andy Laird recommended a cemetery that's very near where we live. And he said, just contact the local police department, let them know you're going to be there after dark, and bring a flashlight, bring a tape recorder, bring a camera. So I borrowed my sister's camera. She had a 35mm camera that I borrowed, and I bought a mini cassette recorder and the tapes from Benny's, like right down the street. And we went there one night and we walked around and I took pictures and I ran the recorder. And at one point, I wanted to get away from the main road. I wanted to go to like the back part of the cemetery, away from the main road. And we were walking like up a slight incline, and all of a sudden this wind came up and was like pushing us back. And my son's like, you know what? I don't think we should go here. So I said, okay. So we turned around and we were walking around, the front part of the cemetery, and I caught an EVP. I caught a couple of EVP. I caught a few EVP that night. And when we got home and I listened to it, I'm like, oh my God, like we didn't hear this stuff while we were there.
So
And
what were the EVPs that you captured?
so the EVP that we got, when we turned around and went back to the front part of the cemetery, there was a little kid's voice. Now my son was in the 6th grade and he's a very big boy. And it wasn't a big boy's voice. It was a little kid, like maybe 4 years old. And I heard him say, "Don't go back."
Oh,
And
wow.
then my husband was reading off some of the names on the stones, on the monuments, and he read one, and the little kid's voice said, "Mama."
Oh,
We also
interesting.
we also got disembodied sounds, like we got sounds of gunshots, and we got sounds um uh, of like a train going by. So where we were, the cemetery that we were at did have train tracks that ran in the back of the cemetery, but they hadn't been used for 40 years, and they're now a bike trail. So there wouldn't be any sound of a train. And then as far as the gunshots went, like, we didn't hear those while we were there. And I asked Andy about them, and he said, well, there are a lot of victims of gun violence that are buried in that cemetery. So maybe they were, letting you know how, they passed. And then when I got my film developed and got the pictures back, I couldn't believe it. Like I had all kinds of light anomalies and orbs and all kinds of crazy stuff in them. And like, wow, this stuff is real, you know?
So did you
And
so Margaret, so soon after that, did Andy invite you to the team, or was it a while later?
yes, he did, Maureen. He actually invited me. So that was in February. So after we did the investigation and I got back to him and let him know what our findings was, he said, we have an opening for an investigator in our group. Are you interested? So I talked to my husband and my son and I said, is this something that you guys think that I should do? And they were like, oh yeah, totally. This is, totally up your alley, and we would we would, definitely support you in this. So I went to the meeting in March and they voted me in,
Nice.
and it's, been 22 years.
Wow.
I can't believe it's been that long. But
Well, time flies when you're having fun.
right, it is. And it's totally fun. It's totally fun. It is my passion. This
Margaret,
is my
what did you do
passion.
for a living?
I am an chief implementation aide for the state of Rhode Island. So I am like an administrative assistant, but on like the next level where I'm a personal assistant to a high level executive in state service.
Mhm.
So I'm very organized. I do a lot of different projects. I do a lot of different things. I use a lot of different computer programs like, a lot of Microsoft Excel and Word and Adobe and all that stuff. So that's what I do for my day job.
Right. Do you have a
So
college
it's,
education? Just for my own edification.
what's that?
Do you have a college education? Just for my own
Oh,
edification.
yeah, I have a 4-year degree. I have a Bachelor of Arts degree.
Ah, okay.
Yep.
In
Yeah.
what field?
My major was music.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah, so I played oboe, English horn, and saxophone.
Well, God bless you.
And not all at the same time, but yeah, I was a professional musician for about 20 years.
Wow.
After I graduated. I graduated college in 1982. So in 2002, I developed Meniere's, and I lost the hearing in my right ear, and I developed vertigo and tinnitus.
Hey, yeah, yeah. Tinnitus. Yeah.
And my inner ear was damaged so that I could not play my instruments anymore. I had to give it up. And so it's really strange the way things happen because the paranormal came back into my life at a time when I had this hole that needed to be filled.
There are no
And
accidents, Margaret.
right,
It's like I really feel like you're pushed in a certain direction and things really take place so that it helps you on your path.
right, everything falls into place.
Right.
And when I first joined the group, Andy was he put me with the people in the group who were mediums and sensitives,
Hmm.
and almost like he knew that that's where I belonged. And like right off the bat, I started picking up stuff. I started seeing stuff and hearing stuff and picking up on information that other group members didn't get. And um, so yeah, he knew where I belonged. He really did.
So, do you consider yourself a medium?
I do. I do, but I do not work like a lot of mediums. I don't do readings for people. I generally just use my abilities while we're on investigations.
Yeah,
So,
I think honestly, I truly believe the more and more I do it, I really believe we all have abilities. It's just, I think that without focusing on them, or it's just like a muscle, right? And I'm sure that you notice, even Margaret, that now when you started picking up on things, so when it's almost as if repetition is the mother of skill, right? That you go out on these investigations and it's just natural to you to start picking up on information, right? Because you tap into it and you're gotten into a mode that's what takes place. But that doesn't mean you wouldn't pick it up elsewhere, if that makes sense.
Well, I mean, if there's something to pick up on, yeah, definitely
Yeah.
I'll pick up on it. I mean, we were the last investigation we did was at Katie's Tavern, which
Hmm.
is an old roadhouse in Chepachet, Rhode Island on Route 44. It's been around for a very long time. A lot of there's been a lot of tragedies that happened around that place. And the last time we visited, we had someone that just joined our group, and we were using a paranormal music box in the kitchen where there was some activity recorded previously. There was a radio that got pushed off a shelf in the kitchen. So we were in there. Well, I got called in there by one of the investigators whose paranormal music box started going off. So myself and the new guy went in there, and I immediately picked up on like a very playful spirit. Like they were having fun with this paranormal music box. Like, oh, it's a toy, great, So I picked up. I'm like, are you a child? And the music box stopped. And I said, okay, you can, continue playing with the music box. And it started up again. And I said, I'm picturing a little girl. If you're a girl, make the music box stop. And it stopped again. And, I had this, full on conversation going on with this little girl. And the new guy was like, I've never experienced anything like this before. And I'm like, okay, well, just get used to it, because our group has always had people who are mediums or psychics or sensitives, whatever you want to call them, as part of the group. A lot of groups just, call in people, but we have people as members of our group that do this kind of work. It makes us a little bit different.
So Margaret, how many team members are in your group?
We
Does
have
it fluctuate or?
Well, we have 13 members right now. But yeah, it does fluctuate, and my husband is also one of the mediums in the group. Makes things really interesting. And we have, some people that are sensitive, some people that are intuitive. And we have a student that we've been mentoring this year who is doing their capstone project on paranormal investigating. So we do that a lot. We mentor students, and we have a couple of new members that are in probationary status. But altogether, we have like 13 members right now.
Do you have any people that work strictly with like, other words, you seem like you have a lot of mediums. Do you have people that work like, for instance, just with sound or just with photographs or anything like that?
No, we don't. We
So
we
you're
all we
basically a psychic based group or a medium based group.
well, not really, because even the people that have psychic abilities, we're all trained to use the latest equipment. We use spirit boxes. We use infrared cameras. We use thermal cameras. We use all kinds of different equipment. So we have some people that are more um, you know, more well versed in using the equipment, but we all use the equipment. Everybody does. My husband kind of tends to like to use like dowsing rods and stuff like that. But I just bought a SB11 ANC, and I've been using that. And I use the SB7. I use digital recorders. I use all kinds of cameras. I have a flare camera. I have a digital camera that I use. So I do everything. I try to do everything. You know what I mean? I don't. I'm a believer, but I need to see evidence as well. Like, like I know what I get as a medium, but I want something to back it up. I want something to verify it. Like with the with the paranormal music box when I was communicating with that spirit. I want something to back it up. Does that make sense?
To Maureen, it does.
Um, It makes sense, Margaret, but I was just sitting here thinking too, is, obviously every team works a little bit differently. So I was just curious too. I mean, do you guys, when you're done, do you have a protocol that you pull all the data together? Do you all walk around together? Do you pair up and then come back and, let's say, discuss what, each other has picked up? And then do you report it back to the location? I'm just kind of curious what the steps are.
Okay, so we have one lead investigator. So whoever gets in touch with the person that has requested an investigation or has reached out to somewhere that we've wanted to investigate, that person is the lead investigator. Everything goes through them. And so that lead investigator will have a team of people. And so that team will report to them. So they will report any kind of, EMF readings or any EVP they get or anything they get on their SLS cameras, or, they'll submit a report to that person. And it's up to the lead investigator to put together a report for the person whose place we're investigating.
Mhm. Unfortunately, we are coming up to the break right now, so we're going to take a short break. So, Margaret, if somebody wants to find out more information about you and your group, where can they go?
They can go to rhodeislandparanormal.com, and that's all spelled out, RHODEISLANDPARANORMAL.com. And there's all kinds of information about our group on there.
Excellent. So anyways, we do have to take a break. You've been listening to Ghost Chronicles right here on TogiNet Radio, and we're all good podcasts being played. I am Ron Kolick. My co-host is Maureen Wood, and our special guest today is Margaret Florio of Rhode Island Paranormal Research. Did I get that right? Hopefully. Not very good. And
Yes.
we're brought to you by Circles of Wisdom, 386 Merrimack Street, Methuen, Massachusetts, the Gallant Messier Family Law Group 55 High Street, North Andover, Massachusetts, and our very good friends on Ghost Chronicles Radio and Patreon. Become a member and get access to exclusive stuff only to our Patreon members. And we're also brought to you by Positively Brilliant Candles on SA. We'll be right back after the following messages.
Do you have a paranormal event, book, or something else you want people to know about? Then why not advertise it on Ghost Chronicles Radio? With over 150,000 downloads a month, get your message out to an audience that's interested in the subject. We have a plan at a cost that fits your needs. For more information, contact Ron Kolick at anyghostproject@comcast.net or call 978-455-6678.
Located in Illinois, there lies a sleepy little town where nothing is a common occurrence.
You going to that party in town tonight?
Heck yeah! I only turned 18 once.
That is until the night of celebration.
Where the hell is she? Oh no. No, 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 Jessica!
What's happening?
From the creators of Shadowhunters, Bite Me, comes a tale of primal terror and grindcore mayhem. Shadowhunters, kill, Jessica, kill!
Hello, can you hear me? My name is Harry Price. I am speaking to you via the medium of the Ghost Box. Many of you will know I carried out the first live radio broadcast from Haunted House way back in 1936 for the BBC. Now, thanks to the wonders of modern technology, I am still able to keep abreast of 21st century ghost hunting by listening to Ghost Chronicles International on TogiNet, ParaX Radio, the Ghost Channel, and even on something called a podcast. Two splendid chaps host it. One is an American who calls himself New England's own Van Helsing, although I have discovered his real name is Ron Kolek. The other is Stephen Parsons, and he's a paranormal scientist. Well, mustache, I'm required elsewhere on something called a K2. But don't forget, I'll be listening in every Tuesday from 8 o'clock in Great Britain and 3 o'clock on the American Eastern Seaboard. I trust you will join me there.
We're back. Since she fell asleep, I am Ron Kolek, and that
No, I
wasn't
was here.
Maureen Wood. You have never ever. I mean, this show has been around for 21 years, and you have never straightened that up.
Oh, I have, except for I don't have the long list like down my arm
You
that I
don't
can
need a long
welcome
list.
back.
You just need a welcome back.
Oh, welcome back,
Anyways,
everybody.
yeah. Anyways, our special guest today is Margaret Florio of Rhode Island Paranormal Research. So just before the break, we were talking to Margaret about investigating and how she does it and so forth. And I guess that, do you publish your findings? I guess is a good way to put it.
Some of our evidence is posted on our website, rhodeislandparanormal.com. But we don't have a YouTube channel. We don't have a podcast. We kind of handle a lot of cases that are confidential. So we don't put a lot of stuff out there. We do not have someone that is like a videographer or someone to handle uh, our tech stuff. So right now, we have a new member who is kind of interested in setting up our camera system and maybe capturing some more evidence on that system for us. But we've been without a tech person for quite some time. So we don't have a lot out there. We do have public investigations that we have been doing at the Pain House Museum.
Yes, I was going to ask you about that. Yes.
Yep. So we did them last year. They asked us to do the public investigations. So we did 7 investigations starting in May. We did 1 per month and then 2 in October. And we're doing the same thing this year. So what we'll do is we'll have like a small group of people, usually no more than 12 visitors, and we'll split up into like 2 or 3 groups, and we'll take the people around to investigate the different areas of the Paint House Museum. And then whatever evidence we gather, we share with the people at the Paint House. But it's all the money that is collected goes to the Paint House Museum for preservation and events.
You know, that's the one good thing that a lot of paranormal groups do is they do raise money for a lot of these nonprofit organizations, which is excellent. So a couple of quick questions on that. Where can they get tickets to join this public groups?
Okay, so the tickets are handled by the Western Rhode Island Civic Historic organization. If you go like on my Facebook page, I've posted a link. I've posted the advertisement
Uh-huh.
for the events. And like I said, there's one per month in May, June, July, August, September, and then there's two in October.
And what's the cost?
It's $35.
Oh, that's
We
cheap.
we start at 7 o'clock, and we usually go to 10, maybe 11, maybe even later if the activity is, if there's a lot of activity, we can usually get the ladies that we work with to like let us stay a little bit later. They're very flexible that way. And the two ladies that we work with over there, they're awesome. Julie and Colleen, they're absolutely amazing. The spirits there know Julie. They called her out by name. It's pretty interesting. They seem to like her. And they just, they're very supportive of the paranormal. And we like to be able to support them as well because they're a national historic site. So we're really happy to be able to pitch in for them.
And what's the history of the paint house?
Okay, so the paint house has a really interesting history. The original structure, I believe, goes back to like 1686. And it was originally a tavern, a place that people would stop for food and drink and lodging on their way back from Connecticut or to Connecticut. Um, there's a stable out back where they could, have their horses stay. And then it went through a few different owners that, ran different taverns. It was a meeting place for the town. Um, it was also operated as a Masonic lodge. And then in the 1800s, there was another house that was brought in from elsewhere and added to it. So you have two separate houses, like kind of put together. And you can tell when you're going from one part of the house to the other because one part of the house, the ceilings are like, normal height. And then you go to the older part of the house where the ceilings are much lower and the floors are tilted and you kind of get that kind of fun house feel, especially on the second floor in the older part of the house. And on the other end, you have, normal size ceilings, the floors are fairly level. And it's kind of weird, it's just a very different energy when you go from one part of the house to the other.
Yeah,
It's
Margaret, I was actually going to ask that because we experienced that when we investigated Tortilla Flats, a restaurant that was actually two houses put together, and one was involved with the Underground Railroad, and the other one, we really didn't feel much activity at all. So you definitely, for us, we've experienced that where it's just a different feel, right? It's very interesting. You get certain spirits that are hanging out in one area, and then, potentially for you guys, because both of them are very old, right? You get maybe similar like spirits that stay in one side. Is that part of what happens?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much. There is a child spirit, Clara Whipple, who interacts with people fairly regularly, and she kind of tends to stay on the older side.
Mm-hmm.
Her mother, Sarah, is there. And there's also some spirits that kind of cross over back and forth. It's a very strange kind of vibe. Um, there is a one male spirit that is misogynistic. He doesn't seem to like women very much. He kind of picks on people. And he tends to be like on the newer side.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, you do get different spirits depending on what side of the house you're in. Um, the most the most astonishing thing that ever happened to me there was I was on I was upstairs in a room that was called the Civil War room. There's a lot of Civil War artifacts in it. And I was up there with some new people that we were training. And I was talking to them about, taking pictures and how you want to take at least 2 or 3 pictures in a row of the same shot. And my batteries went dead. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to go downstairs to the place where all our equipment was and get some more batteries because I neglected to bring some upstairs with me. And then there was a couple guys setting up cameras upstairs. And I said, can you keep an eye on these, the newbies while I go get some batteries? So I go downstairs and there I see somebody walking in front of me. But all I see is like their trousers and their shoes. And I'm
Oh,
like,
really?
hey, wait a minute, wait a minute. Can you get me some batteries out? Where are you going? And they just kept walking. And I followed them through the newer part of the house. And I got into a hallway where our tech guy at the time was putting some wires against a wall so that people wouldn't trip on them. And I'm like, who just came through here? And he's like, nobody. And I'm like, no, there was somebody in front of me. Who was it? And he's like, there was nobody. And I went into the next room and our director was sitting there looking at the monitor. And I'm like, he looks up and he's like, you look like you just saw a ghost. And I said, you know what? I think I did. And he said, oh, yeah, I know you did. I'm like, why? He says, I watched it on the cameras. I'm like, what do you mean? He says, I saw a bright orb go through the wall of the schoolroom, go down the stairs, and then you came down the stairs and followed it through the music room, and then it disappeared. And you like kept walking around, and then you ended up here. And I'm like, oh, let me see it. And he's like, sorry, we weren't recording yet. I was like, oh, I'm like, you're kidding. Oh my God. I mean, I told him what I saw. I actually saw like the bottom half of a person in front of me. I thought it was a person.
Mhm.
And I was aggravated because I wanted them to get the batteries for me. And they
Yeah.
just kept walking.
But you say you saw the bottom half. I mean, didn't you look up and see if there was a top half?
Well, like they were moving pretty quick, so that's like all I saw of them
Oh, okay.
was like was like, you know what I mean? Like when there's somebody in front of you and they're moving really quick.
Mhm.
Like that's all I saw. So it was like really weird. That was like the strangest thing that ever happened to me there.
Yeah,
But
we had a similar. Somebody called us one time about a restaurant that we investigated for, I don't know, 15, 20 years, whatever, a long period of time. And he used to work there, and he said he was working there one day, and he was vacuuming, and he looked up, and he saw uh, what appeared to be a little boy walk across the doorway. You could see his shoes very clearly. We had knickers on and everything else, but there was no top half to him, and it was in black and white as well. So it was kind of interesting. So it sounded something similar to what you had.
very
You know, yeah.
similar, because the pants were like a light color and the shoes were a dark color, and that's like all I could really clearly remember,
Hmm.
you
So
know.
why
So,
why do you think that ghosts or spirits appear this way? I mean, we have so many different sightings that people, claim a ghost, and they're seen in so many different varieties of ways. Everything from, like what you said, a half of a person to colored lights to full body apparitions to wispy things. I mean, why do you think that happens?
well, I think it depends upon whether, number one, they're a residual, that's kind of difficult to say, a residual spirit, which is kind of like, a tape that kind of plays over and over again, which is what I think I encountered that time at the Pain House, because it didn't interact. Like I was asking it to stop and it just kept going. Like it was just like a residual spirit that was just going through its normal daily activity and going down the stairs into the music room. Um, and an intelligent haunt will appear differently. Might appear as like a full-bodied apparition that, kind of recognizes that, a living person is nearby. I've had that happen. And then you just have energy, spirit energy that like appears as a mist or an orb or a light or a shadow. They're not quite strong enough to manifest as a fully formed non-vaporous apparition. Um, and they're not residual. They are intelligent, but they can only manifest, so far, because they only have so much energy to put out. So, I mean, that's my theory anyway.
Mhm. What do you think? What are your thoughts on the theory that a lot of hauntings are basically time slips, where uh, spirits are actually people from another time period just poking their way into ours?
Well, I don't know if you're familiar with Tim Weisberg, but
Sure I am. Yeah,
I I
known Tim
attended
for years.
I attended, he's a very good speaker, and I attended several paranormal conferences where he gave a talk. And this one time he was talking about, quantum theories and string theories and this and that. And I think the best analogy that he gave had to do with Swiss cheese. And I love cheese, man. So I could totally relate to the Swiss cheese. So he said, if you take two pieces of Swiss cheese, and Swiss cheese has holes in it, and if you put one in back of the other, at some point those holes are going to line up and you're going to be able to see through them. And that is how um, spirits come through to us. There's like a something that happens between our our existence and their existence, this physical world and the spirit world, and they just cross over and they hit this point where we're able to see into their existence and they're able to see into ours. I have experienced a few instances of a time slip, but I don't think a time slip per se is really, I don't think it happens that often. I don't think that's a really good explanation about what happens when spirits are experienced. Sometimes there's time slips, and but I don't think they're that common. I think if a spirit wants to be seen or wants to be heard or needs something, and they are an intelligent spirit, like a non not a residual spirit, then they will reach out to the living. But time slips do happen. I have experienced them. And one of the times was at the Pain House.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
how? And in what way?
I was sitting in what was then the music room. It was on the second floor, and they had several different musical things up there, different stuff. And I was just sitting there and I kind of got into like a meditative state. And I heard a male spirit say, "Let me show you what it was like." And all of a sudden, I was in the room and there were a bunch of ladies sitting around in like Victorian dress, and they were having tea and listening to the gramophones, and it was really beautiful. But it only lasted for like a minute or two, and then I was back to like present time. So it
But
was
were they cognizant of you though?
no, nope, not at all. It was like I was like a spectator, like I was watching this happen
So
for like a minute or two,
could
and
be
then I
like an
was.
actual quantum viewing then.
What's that? It was like a remote viewing, yes.
A quantum viewing where you were into another time and dimension
Right, right.
or alternative
But
worlds.
they weren't aware of me, but I was aware of them. Another similar thing happened to me in Salem. I was with my sister and we were walking down the street where there were a lot of historic homes. I don't know what street it was, but that like the houses were beautiful. And I kind of like all of a sudden I felt like a vertigo and I kind of like tripped off the sidewalk, and it was all of a sudden there were like horses and carriages and people walking around, and the women had long dresses and the men were dressed in suits and top hats. And then I got back up on the sidewalk and it was all gone. It was just that fast.
So,
So
Maureen, does that? I mean, you're an expert on quantum jumping. Is that a possibility that's quantum jumping?
I mean, it definitely can be. Usually quantum jumping is you get almost in a meditative state at the time and you envision where you want to go pretty much and you put yourself there. But I can't see why it can't happen, actually having a spirit, let's say, want to show you that quick glimpse. So it is similar, I would say. Why can't it be? I mean, we're dealing with a lot of the unknown, and I think every time we go out, we're always learning. I mean, if we stop learning, we stop growing, right? So I think anything's possible at this rate.
Hmm.
Just my thought.
No, that's good. Anyways, we are winding down the show, Margaret. So, is there anything else you'd like to bring up before we do say goodbye?
Well, we are going to be at the Payne House Museum again this year, starting in May. And we've also, last year was a pretty interesting year. We investigating Miss Lizzie's Coffee House
Really?
in Fall River, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
And that's a very interesting place, especially in the basement. We got some good ELS camera um, um, evidence, and I got some good EVP there. So we investigated there a couple of times, and we also investigated the George Hale Library in Warren, Rhode Island, a couple of times, and did a public reveal of our findings back in January. So that's a very interesting place. They have a museum on the second floor, a lot of artifacts from the slave trade and from whaling. And I think maybe some of those artifacts have some energy attached to them. So it's a beautiful library. I mean, just to go and see their collections, it's just gorgeous. So yeah, we look forward to, the rest of the year. We're gonna do a road trip out to the Shanley Hotel in Napanock.
Mhm.
And that's gonna be a first for us. So we're looking forward to doing that this summer. And you know, we we've been doing this for 40 years, and we're just gonna keep on going.
Yeah, excellent. Yeah, I think the only time we've gotten down to Rhode Island was at the Sprague Mansion. I think that's
Oh,
Maureen.
yeah.
That's the
Yep.
only place, Maureen,
Right,
right?
yeah. Yep, absolutely.
Well, you got to come down and see the Payne House. It's really someplace that you need to experience. There's 4 floors, including the basement and the attic, and also there's a wood shop out back that has been
Okay.
known to have activity.
We do
So
have to
yeah,
wrap it up now, so we're gonna have to stop you there. And we want to thank you so much for being
Yeah,
on the
thank
show
you so
today.
much, Margaret.
thank you, Maureen.
And you have been listening to Ghost Chronicles, the original, right here on TogiNet with Maureen Wood and Ron Kolick. And our special guest today has been Margaret Florio. I think that's the only name I've gotten right in like the last
And
3 years.
You must be something special, Margaret, because yeah,
Anyways,
he's not
of
lying.
It's
Rhode
an
Island
easy name.
Rhode Island Paranormal Research. So check her out.
Thank
And
you.
so good night, everyone. God bless and stay safe.
Good night.
Good
God
night.
bless.
God bless.
Good show, guys.
Yep. Night, Ron.
Yep. Thanks, Margaret.
Thank you, Ron.
Thanks, Margaret. Take care.
You
Have a good
too,
night.
Maureen.
Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.